Hello everyone, this is Tina with Tia's Treasures. Today I have for you a kit from Hero Arts, December 2022. It's a little bit, a lot late. There was this thing in December. I'm not sure how many of you know about it. It's this holiday where people like put up big trees and have to go buy presents for other people, and just basically it's a time sink. So I apologize that I'm a little late. Anyhow, here is our December 2022 kit. It has nothing to do with that holiday. It is just a nice little kit that we can use for all sorts of occasions. It has to do with space and planets and space cadets, like I was and still am. So here we go. We get this cute little card. I got 2 of them this year, which means I could actually like cut down one for a card base. Look at that. Wouldn't that be like awesome? Just using that, I might have to do that because I do like to keep these just so I always know what came with the kit. So our kits come in these handy dandy mesh bags that fit our stamp sets and other things. Let's pull everything out of here if I can get it out. So in addition to the mesh bag that holds everything, we have this fun little rose gold ink pad, this pigment ink. That's what it says on there, Hero Use. And we have, I can actually read off this, we have 4 sheets of Heroes Pitch Black cardstock. This is a nice dark cardstock. I think I finally broke down and bought some of these, the black cardstock for my stash because I just didn't have enough of these. But I have 4 of these half sheets of 5.5 by 8.5 now. You can fold them for a card base or cut them, whatever you want to do with them. We have our stamp set here. Can we see that against the black? White would probably work better. So, well, that's not white, but it'll work. This stamp set comes with these little guys, which are called Space Cadets, which is what I've heard anyway. We get these really fun. They're fun, though. This one's holding a bunch of balloons that look like planets, or if you want to get really whimsical, they could be the planets themselves. We have a round moon and is that like a quarter moon? Saturn over here. It's a really nice sun. Some clouds, some stars. This is a like psychedelic mailbox. Look at that. It's just like, okay, I'm like, yeah, I think I'll take some drugs and draw a mailbox. That's what that looks like to me. We have some little stars hanging from little threads, a little moon hanging from a thread. This little ladder up to the clouds is really fun. And we have some really fun sentiments. Out of this world, wishing you the best, reach for the stars, happy mail, which, you know, we would give the psychedelic mailbox, fly me to the moon, make a wish, congratulations, sending encouragement. I don't see a happy birthday one, but there are so many birthday stamps that people have. I'm sure we could find one that matches this font. So we've got like a typewriter font almost, and then some handwritten. So that's fun. Of course, it always comes with the dies that match all our little images. This one does not have any dies for the sentiments, but that's okay. Most sets do not. So if we're lucky to get the dies, we don't always get these sentiment dies as well. So that's that. It comes with this really whimsical background stamp. Now, as you can see with the darkness here, the ink picks up all over this, and it's just the lines that are going to stay the color of your cardstock. So if you have a white cardstock or card base, you're going to have all these little lines are going to stay white. So it's going to take some ink, but it shouldn't be too bad. We can do like different colors with that. Be fun. And that's A2. I believe that's 5 and a what is it, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, a little bigger than 4 1/4. It looks like it might be 4 1/2 by about 5 1/2, little bigger maybe, but basically A2 size. Now for a couple add-ons I did this month. I bought this hot foil plate with all these little fun stars because I figured I could use that on a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different cards, so that'll be fun. And I also got this swirled, it's kind of like a nebula maybe, stencil. Does it have a name? Star cluster stencil. So I bought a star cluster stencil. Anyhow, let's go make a few cards, and let's do that now. So for my first card here, I am stamping out our little space cadet holding all the balloons or the planets, depending on your point of view. And I'm going to be using some Versa Fine Onyx Black ink. I think I usually call it Black Onyx, but it's Onyx Black. So, same difference. But anyway, it's a nice pigment ink, and it takes me a couple tries to get everything nice and stamped. And I decide that I am going to go ahead and heat emboss it using some clear embossing powder. Now, like normal, I forget to use my embossing bag, but because we're using clear embossing powder and we are going to be die cutting this out, it really makes no difference. You're not going to see any specks of clear embossing powder anywhere, even if they get where they're not supposed to be. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to Copic color these. Now, when I do my Copic coloring, as I'm kind of getting ahead of myself right now, if you want to know, I'm just using some Simon Says clear embossing powder. I believe I have that and some Wow clear embossing powder. So I usually just use whichever one I happen to grab. Anyhow, getting back to Copic coloring, when I do Copic coloring, often I will only use one color on smaller areas. Just because you've got Copics doesn't mean you have to blend everything. You can use just one color, and there's nothing wrong with that. I do a little bit of a blend on my little guy's space suit, but that was just because I kind of wanted a shadow. I am just imagining the light sources in front of our little guy there. But because I am not doing any blending, it really doesn't matter. And I'm honestly not doing any of these planets in a color that is anything close to what you would see in nature. I do have a little moon that's in 2 shades of gray, and I've got one of the little balloons that is blue and green like an Earth type planet, but the rest of the planets I just did some fun purples and pinks, and a pink and a blue, and a purple and a green, I believe, or a blue. I don't even know. I just grabbed a bunch of colors that I thought would look fun next to each other, and I just started coloring in. I saw no reason to blend, which, like I said, up to you. I'm sure there are plenty of people that are really good colors that could do a really good blend with this. But I kind of like the way that this turned out, just kind of being a almost like a cartoon, just really bright and vibrant. And so I am going to go ahead and I'm going to use the little die cuts that came with the kit and cut this out. I'm going to just run it through my Platinum 6 by Spellbinders after I tape it down. I've learned the hard way to always put 2 pieces of tape on this because otherwise it could shift, and I've had that happen plenty of times. And I'm going to stamp out again using the Onyx Black ink in I'm going to stamp out Have a Stellar Day, and I'm going to heat emboss that too so that matches the lines on our little guy there. And I am just going to cut that out using my guillotine trimmer, which, you know, you'll see when we get that far along. And these are all fun cards to make. Unfortunately, like I said, I'm running way behind this month with all of my cards. I am thinking of doing a monthly tag, Christmas tag this year if I get around to it, because at Christmas time, I honestly didn't have enough tags. And I had all this time I thought in the world to get to Christmas stuff. And I just, with everything that was going on, I find that waiting until the month of December or even November just didn't give me enough time to get everything done. And the funny thing is I don't have that many people to send Christmas cards out to. I had my Christmas cards pretty much done. I did a few of the, like 4 of the Tim Holtz Freezy and Chili cards that I sent. Those were pretty time consuming. Took me a couple days. But other than that, my cards didn't take that long. I just thought I would have a lot of inspiration and a lot of times to do tags. And as it ended up, I just ended up like getting some blank little labels and putting "to from" on them, and that was it, which was kind of disappointing. As a card maker, I would have liked to have made some really pretty tags. But anyhow, as you can see, I was just using the stencil that I bought, and I used the rose gold. Now, what I did was I pounced the rose gold through the stencil. I wanted to make sure that it stayed where we wanted it to go, and it was kind of juicy. I didn't want it going underneath. I used the Tim Holtz medium grip mat, and I had it for a long time, but I was hoarding it because they had been out of stock. So it wasn't until I bought a second one that I was finally able to cut it down. Now what I'm showing you here is I forgot to cut down my card before I put the tape on it. So when I do that, if you're very careful, you can take out that plastic protection piece. You have to be careful or you will break off the ends, which is what I was showing you. And after I took that out, I was able to trim down my card front to 4 by 5.5 because I want to put it on a white card base and I want it to have a white frame around it. I find it funny that I do every once in a while. I don't pay attention to what I'm doing, and I put tape on the back of my cards, and then I have to go in there and take the protective strip off so I can cut it down to what I want it to be. And you just have to be a little bit more vigilant around your fingers and holding down your paper so that it doesn't move while you're cutting it. Now I think this rose gold turned out really pretty on this background, my little star background. I originally tried it with some white pigment along with the rose gold, and I actually had some gold ink I was going to try to do the whole thing with. Well, my gold ink pad was almost dried out, and the white ink, even though I pounced it, it didn't want to dry, and it got underneath the stencil. So I went ahead and did a second try with it just in the rose gold. And so I am just popping up my little guy here, and I'm going to pop up the Have a Stellar Day. And it still looks like my card needs a little something. So I am going to put a few silver pearls scattered around, and then I'm going to put some white pearls scattered around, just around our guy there. I just think, you know, space is big, and we need some more stuff in space to kind of give it a little bit more oomph. I didn't want to splatter because I figured that would kind of take away all the whole point of using a stencil and the stars in the first place. But splatter would have looked good, a little white splatter, I think, on a different maybe background. I didn't end up splattering any of my cards, but that's neither here nor there. So that is card number 1. And I wish I would have taken that piece of blue tape away because it starts to drive me a little bit crazy. Now for this second and third card, actually, I am going to do some hot foiling using the hot foil plate that I bought. And I'm using the color Aura. It's a gold color, but it's kind of an iridescent gold. And so it gives a really pretty kind of iridescence when you move it back and forth in the light. Now if you look at it just head on, it just looks gold. So I can't really show you me foiling it because my hot foil machine is like in a spot without the camera. And so just kind of skipping ahead, I had already got it going and ran it through the machine, my die cutting machine, and when you pull it off here, I get some really nice foiling. So this cardstock foils beautifully. I had no trouble with either background that I foiled. I did the 2 of them. The only trouble I had was I was a little bit crooked on this first card, but I'm going to cut it down so it doesn't really matter. And now here's the second one you're seeing me foil. It said no over foiling at all. It's just very, very pretty. So I'm going to cut both of these backgrounds down to 4 by 5.5, 5.25, which is kind of my go-to for the most part. So I'm going to get them all nice and cut down. And these are going to go on a white card base as well. So we have a little bit of a white frame going around it. Now I put those off to the side. And I'm using a little bit of the Misty Sticky Grid in here. Now I thought when I bought the Misty Sticky Grid it would like fit tightly in the Misty, so we got no moving. Well, it still moves just a little bit, so you got to be really careful. You still have everything tight in the corner there when you restamp, or you're going to end up with a hot mess. So I am going to go ahead and stamp out the ladder with the little clouds, and I'm going to stamp out our little girl riding on the star, our little girl space cadet, and then I'm doing the star on a string. And I believe I'm going to do our little goofy mailbox, our little drugged out mailbox, along with the 3 sentiments, reach for the stars, you're a star, and happy mail. And I'm going to stamp them all again in the Onyx Black ink, and we're going to heat emboss all of them with the clear embossing powder again. I did think about using some watercolors. I think watercolors, especially like a metallic watercolor on this cardstock, would have been very pretty, but because I was not doing any stamping directly onto the cardstock itself and I was going to die cut everything out, I just decided to go ahead and just Copic color everything. And so here you see me just trying to get everything lined up, and believe it or not, even though I shut this, it didn't pick up my one sentiment, and then I had to kind of get it back where I wanted it to be. You know, nothing likes to work too easily for me. I have to work for everything. So yeah, we're going to get these stamped out and heat embossed, and then we're going to color them with some Copic. Again, not a whole lot of ink blending. There's a few things I ink blend, but for the most part, on these small images, I always just do one color. On my mailbox, I think I did a little bit of ink blending, and on my great big star there that my Space Cadet's riding, I did a little ink blending. I was trying a little bit something different this time. I usually go from light to dark. This time I was experimenting with going from dark to light, and that works out pretty good. I think it almost works out better because you don't have to worry about the shading so much, because you've already got the shading in the dark, if that makes sense. I'm going to have to do some more practicing with Copics, and thinking about it, I've got a lot of different mediums here that I haven't used in a while. Like, I have not used my metallic watercolors to paint with in a while. I have not used my Zig markers, and now I've got Tim Holtz watercolor pencils too that I should play a little bit more around with. But if you've ever watched a lot of my videos, you notice that I don't do a whole lot of coloring. Now, I'm not sure if that's because I don't feel good. You know, I don't think I'm that good at coloring. But then again, I might not be that good at coloring because I don't do a whole lot of it. So it's I think I'm going to try to get a little bit more coloring done this year, because I have so many stamp sets, and why not? Again, like I said, I might make Christmas tags once a month. I'm going to try to do some random cards here and there. I have so many stamp sets that I haven't gotten to. Because before I started doing YouTube, I was getting card kits that I wasn't even really getting around to using. I was just putting them away. So I have a lot of kits that, quite frankly, I have not touched. I looked at them and oohed and ahed, and, you know, and just like hoarded them and put them away. So I have to get around to finally doing that. But I am going to continue, I think, to get Simon Says in the Hero Arts kit. And I'm debating about Pink and Main just because I love it, but I just can't afford to keep getting, well, it's not even a matter of being able to afford, it's a matter of not being able to store all this stuff. I have a small craft room, and I am out of room to store anything. So, anyhow... I am really enjoying coloring these images here. Now, as you can see with the mailbox, I said I was going from dark to light. And so I did start with the darker because I figured our shadows would be on the right-hand side. And I just, after it dried back a little bit. I just really think it came out looking pretty good. And I'm going to, again, I gave my little Space Cadet some rosy cheeks. You can't see them too well. But through the magic of editing, I've got everything taped down, and everything ran through my die cutter really quick. And again, put 2 pieces of tape on your die cuts, because otherwise they may move and you might have to redo everything that you just put all that work into. And I also found that you really almost have to get your head down in the way and look straight down on them. Otherwise, they don't come, they don't cut out as well as you think they should. You think you've got them all, centered, and they're not. They're a little off center. So you really got to either stand up and look at them, or, look at them head on. And so now I am just cutting down my sentiments again. And I thought about, I have sentiment strips and stuff that you can use, sentiment die strips or sentiment strip dies. You know what I mean, that I could have used. But I just figured I would do my best and try to cut these down using my trimmer. I'm not always good about that. I can do a pretty straight trim on those, but unless you've got them straight on, going straight across, doesn't matter how straight your cut is if their sentiment is crooked when you've got it on the paper. So for my first foiled background, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my little girl here. And now what you're seeing is, even though that looks white, it is saying some black fun foam. So I'm going to cut down a piece of that to go on the back of my card base. No, my card front. And I'm going to just, one card or one side has sticky and the other side doesn't. So I'm going to tape down this using my ATG gun, but actually that's like tape gun, so it's just ATG. And I was getting a little tired of using it. It can be a pain, but my husband bought me like 5 or 6 rolls of tape, and it's so funny. He's so sweet. He went into my Amazon wish list, and sometimes I just put stuff like that to store it in my Amazon wish list because I'm going to come back to it someday. And so I ended up with all this tape, and then he bought me like 3 different size score tapes. And I don't know if you watched my last video where I was telling you I have enough adhesive to last me probably a decade, and now I think I have enough adhesive to last me 2 decades. So, except for liquid adhesive. For that, I've probably only got enough to last me 3 years. But still, lots and lots and lots of adhesive. So I am putting the little star on the string in my little Space Cadet's hand there. And I'm going to put this "You Are a Star" right underneath the star itself, which is going to leave us a whole lot of space. Now, this foil background does give us some fun shimmer, but it looks like we need something. And so I brought in a few Love from Lizzie peel off stars. What really shocked me was this is the only color star I have from Love from Lizzie. I thought I had a bunch of these different peel-offs. Now I've got like a bunch of different heart color peel-offs from her, but as far as the stars go, I only have these yellow stars. So I figure because the yellow matches the yellow star she's on, I'm going to put a few of those around. You're not going to see them a lot because of the background, but I'm going to pull in a few clear gem stickers I have. I think they're from Stamps of Life, and I'm just going to throw like 3 of them on there just for a little added sparkle. Again, they're not going to show up in your face because the background has got so many stars across it, but as you tilt this, you can see it, and it adds a little something. I did debate maybe like putting a yellow ribbon across the bottom, but I just don't think that would have really gone with the theme that much of our little our little person in space. And so now for our third card, I'm taking this Stairway to Heaven or Stairway to the Stars, and I'm going to pop that up. It's not so much, when I look at this, I'm reminded of a Doctor Who episode. It was like a Christmas episode where, I don't know if you may or may not be familiar with Doctor Who, where his TARDIS, which is like an old police box, was in the clouds, and you could take a ladder up to it, and it was a really whimsical episode for a while. And I just love the image of, climbing a ladder to the clouds. It's just kind of, again, a whimsical thing. So that's, we've got a little ladder into the clouds, and I'm going to use the sentiment, "Reach for the Stars." And I'm going to pop that up too. And I thought about maybe I should like try to get one of our little um, people on the ladder, our little space cadets, but I just thought that I would kind of leave it as is. Now I'm using a little Spectrum Noir glitter pen to glitter up the clouds, and I'm going to come back to this card and add a few sequins, but for now let's get on to our fourth card. Now for this one I am using the background stamp that came with the kit, and I am going to use 3 of the Distress Oxides. I'm going to use some Uncharted Mariner, some Blueprint Sketch, and some Villainous Potion. And I'm going to, I'm not trying to make it look like a sunset or anything like that. I just really wanted the 3 different colors in our little space. And I think Uncharted Mariner is such a pretty color that I had to use that. And I almost used some Chip Sapphire because that's so dark and, you know, that's space-like. But Blueprint Sketch is a really pretty blue. So I figured why not. Now the first time I'm trying to get this stamped, I'm putting all 3 colors on at once. And I'm going to use a little bit of a blending brush. I've got this sped way up like 8 times. I did not stamp it this quick. And as I open it up, you're going to see that it is very, 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 very light. It didn't want to transfer too well. And so now I decide that I'm just going to do 1 color at a time. I'm still going to kind of soften it up with the brush. It takes me quite a few times with this Villainous Potion, I think 2 or 3, to get it where I want it to go. And the Blueprint Sketch, now that's a funny one. That one is so juicy. It only took the 1 time stamping it right here, and it was just in your face. And then the Uncharted Mariner, I think, took me a couple times. But I was really pleased with the way this turned out. And it was still a little wet. I had to take, I got ink all over my fingers, you can see there. I had to take my little heat tool and dry it off. And I ended up not getting it stamped completely centered, which is okay because I'm going to cut this down anyway, like I cut down all my cards. So we're going to go again 4 by 5 1/4. And it's a little tiny bit warped from the heat tool, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to tape it down. Now with this card here, I'm going to use a black card base. I'm just going to score it at 4 1/2. So this is going to be side opening instead of top opening like the other 3 cards. And we're gonna get it nice and flat using the bone folder. I had to go back and do it again because as you see right there, it's still kind of staying open. So after I taped down our little card front, I went back with the bone folder and really went to work trying to get it to stay flat, which it did. Now I'm going to tape that down, and we're going to put our little psychedelic mailbox there right inside of the Blueprint Sketch. We're going to pop it up with some foam tape, and we're going to pop up the sentiment Happy Mail. Now it's really funny. I was sitting here going, okay, I just can't have those 2. I need some stars or something else to go on the front of this card. And I happened to look over to my left in a bin, and I had some Stamps of Life cloud stickers. I mean, they were just like there looking at me, and I'm like, oh my god, those are perfect. Even though we're not really in space, we're not really in the clouds, it's just kind of a whimsical thing, but there are definitely clouds in the background stamps. So these clouds, they're like a puffy plastic cloud, were just perfect. So I put 4 of those down, And as I was trying to decide what else I needed on this card, I happened to see some Pink and Main little flat sequins. Not the ones with the hole, but what, I don't even know, like confetti sequins, I guess. And there were a kind of a metallic silver, little round silver right there. And I'm like, oh my God, those are perfect. They've been on my desk. Why haven't I been using those on my cards instead of some of the other stuff I've used? So I scattered a bunch of those around on this card. And then I went back to the card we did previous, and I put just some of these scattered around our little ladder to the stars as well, which is why I mentioned that I would come back to our third card. And I think though, out of the 4 cards, I might think this one, the Happy Mail one, is my favorite just because of the fun colors of the Distress Oxide inks. It's just, and it's a really fun, whimsical background stamp. I'm going to have to find some more things to do with it. And there we are for card number 4. I originally was going to do 5 cards for this voiceover, or for this kit, but I figured if I went and did a 5th card that it was going to take me even longer to get this video out, so I figured 4 is better than nothing. So you can see I am just gluing down the rest of these little silver confettis around our little ladder to the stars. And I am just enjoying the way they look. I mean, I thought about going back and putting them on all the cards, but no, we've got some bling on the other cards, so I think we're good. So anyhow, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm. I would love to have you as a subscriber if you're not already. And I would love to hear what you would have done with these little planets and the coloring them. I'm getting like, my mind, it just keeps going, okay, you're running your mouth, keep talking. So anyhow, me with the inky fingers, bye bye for now. Love y'all.